Good morning, and welcome to another episode of Old Men in Chairs. I've been on kind of a Joni Mitchell kick lately, and that's mainly because I'm such a big fan of bassist Jaco Pastorius. I may not have given Joni quite her due with all my emphasis on Jaco, but that's going to change right now because I'm going to do a song that I believe is Joni's total masterpiece. And going back to a 1977 album, it's called DonJuan'sRecklessDaughter. I owned this album back in the day. In 1977, I was in my first year in law school. I can remember listening to particularly this one song called Paprika Plains over and over again. Now, it's a 16-minute song, so this will be a very long reaction, probably a half an hour or more. If you're not familiar with the song, don't even bother because I'm going to interrupt it many, many times. If you would like to hear the song straight through without being interrupted, go check it out for yourself and listen to it 2 or 3 times to really appreciate. It's a masterwork of lyrics, singing, piano playing by Joni, a full orchestra. It's really a symphonic poem, and it's mesmerizing.
It fell from midnight skies. It drummed on the galvanized. In the washroom, women tracked the rain up to the makeup mirror. Liquid soap and grass and jungle gardenia crash on pine sol and beer. Stifling in here. You gotta get some air. I'm going outside to get some air.
So she sets the scene. They're in a tavern, a bar. The women are in the restroom, crowded around the makeup mirror. The smell of grass and beer and pine sol is stifling. Now, I'm using the original LP soundtrack. This song was later remastered in 2005. And the funny thing about it is they took out one line out of the entire song, the line you just heard. It's stifling in here. I don't know. Nobody knows why they took that line out. But it starts to rain. The midnight rain is falling. So she's setting the scene so beautifully. She's in a bar. There's a band playing. It starts to rain. He's got to get outside and watch the rain come down.
Back in my hometown, they would have cleared the floor just to watch the rain come down. There's such sky-oriented people geared to changing weather.
What a beautiful description of small town people, rural people, people that live on the land. They're such sky-oriented people. They're geared to the changing weather. I grew up in the suburbs of a large city. Because you're surrounded by trees and other houses, you can't really see the weather coming from any long distance away, so you don't really appreciate it, the forces of nature, until I moved into a much more rural area in western New York where I am now, and you can see 10 miles away, you can see the storms are coming. And I farm, so sky-oriented, absolutely. It's your bread and butter. You have to know what the weather is going to do, not just in the next 15 minutes, in the next 10 days, constantly looking at the radar screen, constantly watching the skies. So I totally relate to this idea of a sky-oriented person.
I'm floating off in time. I'm floating off in time. When I was 3 feet tall and wide-eyed, open to it all, with their tasseled teams they came to McGee's General Store.
So now she's floating back in time. She remembered how the people in her hometown would have reacted to the rain. And now she's going back to memory lane when she was 3 foot tall. And she remembers the Indians coming into the general store with their tasseled beads. A trip down memory lane and then into the dream world. But did you notice just then, suddenly there was violins came in? This is the beginning of the orchestration part of the song. Up to now, it's just been her and the piano. But now she's bringing in a full symphony.
All in their beaded leathers, I would tie on colored feathers, and I'd beat the drum like war. I would beat the drum like war. I'd beat the drum, I'd beat the drum like war. But when the church got through, they traded their beads for bottles smashed on Railway Avenue, and they cut off their braids and lost some link with nature.
Such a tragedy in those couple of lines. She's talking again about the Indians who traded their beads for bottles and then got drunk and smashed the bottles on Railway Avenue. And then they cut off their long hair in braids and they lost their touch with nature. This is something that happened to the American Indian, not just in Canada, but all across the United States, as they lost their culture and did not have resistance to alcohol or other white man diseases.
I'm floating into dreams. I'm floating off, I'm floating into my dreams.
So at this point, she tells us she's floating into her dream. And what does she dream about? Paprika Plains. On the original album, the entire inside of the album are all the lyrics to the various songs. And this long instrumental session that we're going into does have lyrics associated with it, but they're not sung. You can read them as you listen, but you will not hear them. If you do read them, I think you'll find it's a very apocalyptic view of the world, and perhaps the Paprika Plains is what's left after an atomic bomb has exploded. That's what I get out of it. I never got that, actually, back in the day when I was listening. I never knew exactly what the dream was or what it meant. But after reading the associated lines on the album, I think it becomes more clear. I'm not going to interrupt too much on the instrumental section because it's very long anyway.
I dream Paprika Plains, vast and bleak and God-forsaken. Paprika Plains and the turquoise river snaking.
just take a slight break in here to say, what beautiful orchestral music. You know, the only person that I can think of in modern rock and roll music that is capable of this type of composition would be Brian Wilson, and especially his collaborations with Van Dyke Parks. Brian, has been called the Mozart of rock and roll. If Brian's the Mozart, we're going to have to put Joni up for maybe Beethoven. She's really brilliant with this composition. I know it's long, but hang in there because the ending is fantabulous.
The rain retreats like troops to fall on other fields and streets. Meanwhile they're sweet talking and name calling and brawling on the fringes of the floor.
That transition from the classical music back to the song, it always just jolts me. It's so perfect. And again, she talks about the rain. She was out watching the rain, and the rain receded. And she's jolted back to the present time. She's back in the bar. The band is starting to play again. The people on the dance floor are getting up to dance again. You get lost in that long orchestral moment, and it's a dreamland. You're in a zone. And then suddenly she brings you back to the moment.
I spot you through the smoke with your eyes on fire from J&B and Coke. As I'm coming through the door, I'm coming back for more.
Did you hear that? That was Jaco playing that one bass note. It's the first return of the actual backing band, who have been missing for the first 13 minutes almost of the song. I'll back it up, maybe you hear that again.
I'm coming back for more. The band plugs in again. You see that mirrored ball begin to sputter lines and spin. Dizzy on the dancers, geared to change rhythms. floating back, I'm floating back to you.
Stop that. That one section there, about a minute and a half of Jaco on the bass and Wayne Shorter on the saxophone and Joni playing backup and the piano, is just glorious. Jaco's bass lines always move me in some mysterious way. You know, we had to wait 15 minutes to get here, but it was well worth the wait. The whole band is rocking out right here. Beautiful. As usual, Jaco gets in the last word. And just the tone that he's able to get, I've commented on so many times. It just doesn't sound like any other bass player, that fretless bass and the fuzz that he gets on it. He just creates sounds that they're almost like a second voice, you know, backing up Joni and singing harmony with Joni. But what a tremendous, tremendous song. A total tour de force by Joni. And a great driving instrumental by the band there to take it home. This is one of those music of my life songs I can listen to over and over again and never get tired of hearing it. I hope you learn to love it as well if you don't already do.